Yeah, and to the listeners, we joined this morning with by Bianca Buitendag. It's an absolute privilege for me to be able to speak to her and interview her and get some insights from her after coming back from being silver medalist at the Olympics. Big congratulations and big shout out to from all the listeners. We're sure that they share in your amazing victory, and we're very proud of you. Well done.
Thanks so much, Alec, and thanks to everyone that's listening. I really appreciate everyone's support, and yeah, very, very happy to be home finally, and things have settled down quite well.
Yeah. Bianca, would you mind just giving us a little bit of a bio, a little bit of background, as so just to let people know who you are outside of just being an awesome surfer?
I will. I'll keep it short. I was born in Johannesburg, actually. My parents were both working there in the corporate. They moved down to Cape Town when I was 1 year old, so I grew up surfing the Strand, which is South Africa's worst wave, probably. And just before high school, we moved up to the Garden Route. My parents took a sabbatical, and we ended up staying here ever since then. I started competing from a very young age in all sorts of sports, so all school sports. But one stood out, one surfing that I never got bored of it. So you would just see me in the water for hours at a time, and I just wouldn't come out. So I guess moving to Vic Bay was a good move in that sense, but I didn't think it would be a profession at all. It was my hobby, and by the time I finished school, I wasn't too sure what to study, and my parents gave me 1 year to surf competitively and see how I went. I managed to qualify for the tour that year. I was on the tour for 5 years, getting top 5 in 2015, and then obviously quite recently the Olympic result. And then I managed to study a Bachelor of Science in Finance during the travels.
Gee.
So that's it in a nutshell.
So, yeah, that's quite awesome. So, yeah, we've got a bit of common ground. I also grew up in George, and I grew up surfing at Vic Bay, so I know the break well. And I really enjoyed surfing as a youngster. I moved to Joburg. And that was the end of my surfing. So the waves here in Pretoria leave a lot to be desired. So, but yeah, maybe you can. We're speaking on a health and wellness show. So if you can just give us a little bit of a background, just to let people give them a bit of an insight into what it took you from a nutrition and from a training point of view to actually get to where you are with regards to the dedication in order to be able to achieve at sport at the highest level?
That's a very good question, Alec. I feel like surfing is still quite an informal sport, so we depend a lot on our intuition when making decisions in the water. So it's not like sprinting where you have quite a rigorous training schedule, or swimming in one lane that has quite a repetitive training setup.
Sure.
So even with saying that surfing is quite an informal sport in that sense, I can't even begin to explain the amount of hours we've put in and out of the water both. I remember, I don't think I woke up later than 6 o'clock for a whole year almost. And like fall out of bed, and the first thing I would put on is sunscreen. So doing 3 surf sessions a day definitely takes a toll on your body. And then obviously backing that up with physical, like a good physical foundation, just to avoid injuries and yeah, cross training to a certain degree. Luckily, before the Olympics, I was home for 18 months. So we used to do this all on the road, which is a bit more difficult.
Yes.
But being home for 18 months, I managed to stick to the same routine. I would wake up super early and drive straight to the gym in the dark. And then by the time I was done there, I would grab something to eat and you head straight into the water, at least 3 times a week with the gym schedule, and then we try and spend as much time in the water as possible. That is the foundation of our training, really, time in the water.
Yeah.
And then we get different coaches' advice on certain areas. So we've got technique, which is major, but we've also got strategy and how to adapt to a heat situation. Because obviously we're there to score points,
Yes.
And make pass rounds. So it's not only about the technical part of it, it's more importantly about what strategies do you use in what circumstances. So we cover a broad range of areas in that sense, but definitely have put time in over the last 15 years of my life, I would say.
Yeah, and on the nutrition front?
On the nutrition front, I'm not so picky. I think mainly because I hate cooking. So what I eat is not necessarily my choice. I can't even make toast. I'm like worst cook in the world. But I try and stick. So the moral of the story is I've cut out sugar completely. I try and stick to any food that's not processed. So I'm not picky with what, like, I eat carbohydrates, proteins, meats, everything. I just try and minimalize the time and process it takes from the ground to the plate.
Yeah.
So, like super processed pastas, I try to avoid. But again, I'm not super picky. Like I'll eat whatever's in front of me. But if I have a choice, when I go grocery shopping, etc., we try and support local farmers. We've got a golden harvest in George. It's like straight from the farm. There's still like dirt and soil on the vegetables when you put it in your cart. But yeah, just minimalizing the process and time from the ground to your plate.
Excellent. It's so good to hear what I've been advocating being reinforced. So thank you. So maybe we can step away from that for a second, and you can just give us a little bit of an insight into what it took going into the Olympics, particularly around your mindset, being seeded 17th, and then having to believe in yourself and your the role that your faith plays in your life and in your sport, and believing in yourself and help getting yourself through to the point where you're in the final.
Yes, that is actually that's about a 2-hour conversation. Only that question. I'm gonna try and condense it. But the moral of the story is I've always struggled with self-belief. I feel like I have quite a critical and analytical brain, so I would see areas that need fixing before I would see areas that are doing well. So I guess believing in yourself is not really my forte, but I do believe God has a plan for my life, so that's easy. That's easier to believe. And going into the Olympics, I wasn't even expecting to make it past the second round, just because of the standard of surfing and the scale of the occasion and the event. So I was just trying to make opportunities where there weren't any in the small waves, and then when this wave started picking up and that typhoon hit the coast, I just felt like a lot of things aligned naturally, which I am convinced was divine intervention. Because, for example, you'll be like 5 minutes left and you've got like the world's second seed and she needs a slow score, and then the wave just won't come for 5 minutes, which is unheard of. So a lot of situations like that happen straight after each other. So too much coincidence for me to take credit, if I can put it that way. So I just felt like I was spectating a miracle happening right before my eyes, and it genuinely was. I'm still convinced. I really think it was a miracle.
Yeah,
and
I think
God's plan is.
I think the listeners don't appreciate necessarily the variables in surfing. You've got a certain amount of time for your heat, and you've got to catch a certain number of waves and score on those waves. And you're at the absolute mercy of what arrives, and being in the right place at the right time is part of the skill that it takes in order to be able to competitively compete and to perform competitively. So yeah, exceptionally well done. And I mean, I saw the waves that you had to surf in the final, and the conditions were really less than ideal.
No, for sure. We had extremely challenging conditions. I just wanted to add on my previous answer that I'm not saying God's plan is always prosperity and results and good things. He is good, but sometimes I'm just saying, not that I know it was God's plan because I did well. I've known it was God's plan when I've did poorly as well. It just felt like things aligned really naturally. Okay, but to this question, yes. So it's such an intuitive thing. Like you would sit in the water and nothing would come for half an hour, and then your heat's over. So we constantly have to adapt to make decisions. If nothing comes for 10 minutes, are we going to come in and take smaller waves with the risk of the girl sitting at the back when the set coming straight towards her? So there's a lot of variables, like you mentioned, but it is also a reflection of life that also has a lot of variables. And we learn that the hard way. We're constantly trying to control every aspect, where in surfing, or when you're in the ocean, you realize that absolutely nothing is in control. You're very much dependent, even if you like to believe that you're not. So, and then the final day of Tokyo, it was a typhoon, so it was literally like 2-meter shore break. I couldn't even get to the back most of the time. Physically exhausting, emotionally exhausting, and yeah, you're fighting against the ocean more than you are your competitor. So it comes at you from two different directions.
Well, congratulations again, and very well done. And I think, if you announced that you are stepping down from competitive surfing and that you've achieved your objectives, and perhaps you can tell us about what's next, what makes you tick, and tell us a bit about the Christian Academy.
Yes, that is, wow, that's like, in Afrikaans we say my hartsepunt. It like it really makes me excited to wake up every day. I've obviously been in the professional surfing field for the last decade. I just felt like it was a good time to move on, and I'm very excited for the next season of my life. And the next season entails getting involved in an NGO in town. They've got a beautiful organization up and running for the last 20 years. So I'm just going to see where I can help out. It's called Life Community Services. They branch out into different fields. They've got a foster home, they've got aftercare programs, they've got a feeding scheme, creches, and a primary school. And specifically for the primary school, it's been going for 5 years. We have 225 kids in the school now, wow, fully operational. But they're currently in Wendy houses. So we're trying to fundraise to get them into a school building. And obviously for the construction thereof. And then we call it the all-purpose hall. So it's like a big steel structure that'll incorporate the school under one roof, and then obviously have space for the rest of the fields that life is involved with. So there'll be space for aftercare. There'll be a kitchen for the feeding distribution to be based around. The offices will move there. So we're trying to centralize the whole organization and incorporate 7 grades under one roof.
Wow. That sounds very exciting. Can you give the listeners some contact information and some so that anyone out there that would like to get involved or support your initiatives and get behind them has got the means to get hold of you, and then we'll include those links in everything as well.
So the best place to look is if you Google Life Community Services in George. You'll probably get lifecommunity.co.za coming up straight away. You can go onto their website, and the homepage has all the information regarding the school. We even went as far as putting the architectural plans up, the QS bill, the site development plan, just so that everyone has as much information as possible. And then you can contact me on my Facebook page, just my name and surname, and then you'll also get the link for the school. And if you wanted to reach out, you could just send a message on there.
That's awesome, Bianca, and we wish you all the best, and we hope that that the school grows from strength to strength, and that the Lord will continue to use you, and we trust that the platform that surfing has provided and sport has provided, and that you'll continue to use it to bring glory to the Lord in all that you do, and we're very proud of you, and keep up the great work. And have you got any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the listeners about sort of the getting maybe your perspective on the balancing act that you have to sort of deal with regards to competitive sport, your vocation, and family life and balance, and how you personally manage to keep that all together?
I wish I could say I do, but that would be a lie. No, I'm just thinking the last 10 years of my life have been almost purely dedicated to sport. And after this retirement and being home for COVID, it's kind of turned right on its head. I've just been with family for the last 18 months, and I really felt like that was important. It was part of my decision as well. But the last message I would like to leave is about 3 years ago, we were evicted from our first property at Life. We had a month to move across. We didn't have any finances to purchase land. There was no available options nearby. And within a month, God really put a whole miracle together that we all were witness of. And I just felt like in Tokyo, the same thing happened. There was almost no chance, and God literally put it all together without much input from my side. And I just want to say, don't count yourself out of a miracle, because if it can happen in my professional life, it can happen in my personal life, it can happen in yours. And that comes from someone who's quite a pessimist. So take it from face value. Yeah, that's what I would like to leave the listeners with.
Well, thank you, Bianca. It's been awesome chatting to you, and I most certainly will try and bump into you next time I visit George. My surfing skills and abilities are extremely rusty, but I still visit and jump in off the point and go for a swim out the back, and enjoy it. And look forward to meeting you in person one day. And thank you very much for sharing your insights with the listeners. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thanks so much, and I promise I'll give you a set wave when you come on.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, great, Bianca. Thank you.